Not that long ago, a good friend of mine who's been a teacher for quite some time now said, "You know what, Lisa? Being a teacher is really just like being an actor. All I do is entertain students all day long. And that's the only way to keep them engaged and listening to me." She said, "Really, my classroom is nothing but a stage." And if the spring has taught us anything, we better have some pretty fancy moves if we're going to keep our students engaged. But really, it doesn't have to be that way. We don't always have to put on our dancing shoes to keep our students engaged. What we learned in Module 1 about presence applies here too. In this case, we're going to take a look at some of the best practices for keeping learners engaged. We're going to consider expectations, and in this case here, we're going to look at academic expectations. We're going to get to classroom protocols and those kinds of expectations a bit later in Module 4. We're also going to consider how can we give students options and a place to share their voice. We're going to consider some new and interesting ways to use technology to keep them motivated. We're also going to refine what do we mean when we talk about collaborating online. And importantly, we're going to consider what else and who else needs to be part of this system to help our students stay engaged. When we talk about expectations, really what we need to do is expect students to do their best. But we can help them stay engaged when they're part of the goal setting. So we're going to look at what are some alternative methods for keeping students engaged by setting goals and by really setting high expectations for academic achievement. We also want to practice student agency. That means that we really want to give them options to learn in different ways, to experience the learning in different ways. And that's really part of what our UDL framework tells us as well. And you already do this in your traditional classroom. You always give students choices whenever you can because you know how that helps them stay connected and engaged. And it's also important to give them a place to share what they know. Many students love to be in front of others and sharing and doing presentations, and there's still some that might shy away from that. So in one sense, having technology is a great equalizer and gives all students a chance to share what they know. So we'll look at some options for that as well. We're going to consider how can we keep students motivated to make progress. It's a little different when we're talking about engagement and motivation. Really what we mean by motivation is meaning keeping them making progress, keeping them moving forward. And the way we can do that is by finding different ways to hold their interest. For example, peers. But we all know that successful peers and successful collaboration doesn't just happen. So we're going to think about some ways that we can scaffold peer work while they're working online. And then finally, we're going to consider some support systems that reach beyond the classroom and what we can do as teachers to help support our students, keep them engaged, and keep them moving forward. So let's dive in to Module 2 and learner engagement.